Good morning, dear students. How are you all? Hope everyone is fine. Today's science lesson, we were dealing with the unit Elements and Compounds. We have already completed the first lesson, 7.1. Now, we'll go for the second lesson, 7.2. More about elements. 7.2. More about elements. The learning objective is learn about metals and non-metals. I think you have heard about metals and non-metals a lot. So we are studying about metals and non-metals. So let us go to the chapter. So the first topic is metals. So if you look everywhere around you in the surroundings, you can see a lot of metals which you use in your day-to-day life. So most materials like jewelry, vehicles, etc. contain metals. There are a lot of objects which contain metals and we are using it in our day-to-day life. Most elements are metals and they are highly useful. As we all know, metals are highly useful. Metal elements have similar properties. Their properties explain how we use them. Yes, that's it. So one of the metal is iron, another metal is copper. So we use iron, copper in different manner. Gold is another metal. We use it for another purpose. So it is all based on their properties. Most metals are solid at room temperature. That's correct. So most of the metals are solid. So you have to tell me one metal which is liquid at room temperature. Can you tell me? I think you will tell it if you were in the class. So mercury is a liquid at room temperature. Mercury is a metal which is liquid at room temperature. So next point. Most metals are strong. That is why it is difficult to break or squash them. So usually or mostly metals are very strong. So it is very difficult to squash them. Many metals are hard. It is not easy to cut or scratch them. Thin metal sheets and metal wires are bendy. So not only the metals are strong as well as hard. It is not easy to cut or scratch them. Actually, we can bend them, but we cannot cut them very easily. So see the picture. This is one car met with an accident. So when a car crashes, its metal body doesn't break into lots of little pieces. It just bends. So you can see it from the picture. The metal is not broken into several pieces. It is just bent. Okay. So next topic. Heat and electricity travel quickly through metals. That means metals are good conductors of heat and electricity. This is one important point. Metals are good conductors of heat and electricity. That means heat and electricity travel very quickly through metals. Some metals conduct electricity better than others. The best are copper and silver. So copper and silver conduct electricity better than all others. That is why they are used in wires. So you can see copper wires. So there is a picture of a copper wire here. So copper is used for making wire because of its conduction of electricity. Metals are shiny when you first cut them or if you polish them. After a while, most metals go dull on the outside. So this is one normal case which you see in your daily life. That means most of the metals are very shiny when you first cut them, but afterwards it becomes dull on the outside. But there is one exception. Gold and platinum are always shiny. So you can imagine why gold and platinum are used for making jewelry, right? So they are used for making jewelry and they are very expensive because they are always shiny. Even if we wash it or even if we scratch it, they are still shiny. So next. So we have discussed almost every properties of metals or the important properties of metals. Now we'll go to the next section of this topic of this lesson, non-metals. So this is also very important. So non-metals. About 20 elements are non-metals. So number of metals is more compared to that of non-metals. So about 20 elements are non-metals. Many are gases at room temperature. So you have to understand the differences between metal and non-metal. So earlier when we were talking about the case of metal, they were solids. Mostly they were solids. But here in the case of non-metals, most of them are gases at room temperature. Nitrogen and oxygen make up most of the air. Okay, so you know that these all things are very general thing. You have studied it, you have been studying it, so it's okay. Nitrogen and oxygen make up most of the air. In the atmosphere, the most important gases are nitrogen and oxygen. Now, next, another non-metal, that is helium. Helium fills balloons. So, you know, helium balloons are there. So, helium is used for filling in balloons, and neon makes signs glow brightly. So, we use signal boards and signs. So they glow brightly because of neon. Neon is also a non-metal. So they are giving you some examples of non-metals. Okay, nitrogen, oxygen, carbon, helium, etc. Hydrogen, chlorine, etc. are examples for non-metals. The gases hydrogen and chlorine are also non-metal elements. So here they have given you some examples about metals. Sorry, non-metals. So you know the examples of metals, right? Aluminium, gold, silver, copper, iron, etc. So here are some examples for non-metals: helium, hydrogen, nitrogen, chlorine, oxygen, carbon, etc. So now we'll discuss some properties of non-metals, as we have discussed the properties of metals. So a few non-metals like sulfur, silicon, and phosphorus are solid at room temperature. So you have to remember the names of the non-metals: sulfur, silicon, and phosphorus. So these three are examples of non-metals which are solid at room temperature. So we have to discuss that basically normally non-metals are gases at room temperature, but there is exceptional cases. That means sulfur, silicon, and phosphorus, they are solids at room temperature. Most of them are not shiny. So we have discussed about metals that most of them are shiny. But in the case of non-metals, most of them are not shiny. They usually break easily if you hit them with a hammer. So this is also a difference between that of metal. So metals were like, we cannot easily break them. But in the case of non-metal, by using a hammer, we can break it very easily. You can't bend solid non-metals. But when we talked about the case of a crashed car, we have discussed that metals can be easily bent. But in this case, about non-metals, we cannot bend solid non-metals. Most non-metals don't conduct electricity. This is one important point. Non-metals don't conduct electricity, mostly. But most metals conduct electricity. So this is one important difference between metals and non-metals. So now we will discuss one important non-metal, that is carbon. So I'm explaining you something so important about carbon just because of its importance. No other non-metal is explained in this chapter. So that much important carbon is. So carbon is a very important non-metal element. There are several types of solid carbon. So carbon you can see in different forms. Okay. In each type, the atoms have a different arrangement. So if you see the examples of carbon, can you imagine? Charcoal is a carbon, graphite is a carbon. Graphite is the substance which you see in the lead of the pencil. Okay. And diamond, which is so shiny, is also a form of carbon. So that is an irony. So charcoal, which is dark shaped, which is very black, which is ugly looking, it is a form of carbon. And diamond, which is so shiny, so beautiful, it is also a form of carbon. So carbon has different forms. We call it allotrophs, but you don't have to study that word right now. You will study it in your higher classes. But anyways, carbon has different forms. So in each type, atoms have a different arrangement. So you can see the picture of the three forms of carbon. So this is the picture of charcoal, graphite, and diamond. You can see the difference in their form, but still all of the three are carbon. So you have to understand this. Now we'll discuss a topic, the elements of life. So you have to understand the value of metals and non-metals in human body. Every living thing is made mostly from non-metals. So you have to understand that in human body, non-metal is seen in more amount. Your muscles are mainly carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and sulfur. So your muscles are mainly carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and sulfur. Living things contain mainly non-metals. So you can see the picture. So this picture shows the elements in the body of a 50 kg person. So understand, this is the 50 kg person, imagine, and you can see 32.5 kilogram oxygen, 9 kilogram carbon, 5 kilogram hydrogen, 1.5 kilogram nitrogen, and only 1.5 kilogram metals. So this is the case of a 50 kg body and 0.5 kilogram of phosphorus. So you can see that most of the elements are non-metals and only 1.5 kilogram is metals. So from this diagram, so we can ask a question, what percentage of your body mass consists of non-metals? So you have to add all the non-metals. That means 32.5 kilogram of oxygen, 9 kilogram of carbon, 5 kilogram of hydrogen, 1.5 kilogram of nitrogen, and 0.5 kilogram of phosphorus. So you will get 48.5 kilogram of non-metals in your body, that of a 50 kg person. So to find the percentage, you have to divide 48.5 kilogram divided by total 50 kg multiplied by 100. So that means it will be 97%. So you can. So at last, we'll just sum up metals and non-metals and their differences. Metals and non-metals have different properties. So in the case of metals, what they look like? They look shiny, but non-metals, they look dull. Do they usually conduct electricity? Metals, yes, they conduct electricity. But in the case of non-metals, they usually don't conduct electricity. So the answer is no. Can you bend them? So usually metals, we can bend them, yes. But in the case of non-metals, it is no, because we cannot bend them usually. So this is the important difference between metals and non-metals. So you have to read the textbook and write down the question answers which I will give you and submit it. So so today's lesson is over and we'll start another lesson in the next class. Till then, take care. Thank you so much. Thank you.